we go. Yeah. We are. It's in show time, guys. We are in for another stream. So welcome, Paul and the Rev.
Thank you very much, Les.
Here we are again. Yeah, special Sunday night stream.
Yeah, we'll try Sunday, see whether that goes all right. And providing everybody in chat finds it accommodating, we'll continue with a few Sundays. What do you think?
Works for me.
Yeah, definitely.
All good. So,
any updates, Paul, then, this week?
It's still active. This area is still active. I'll jump to some of that in a minute, but just remember, people in chat: Jessica Pym, Sober Carper, Skyflower, Kundalini, Fred Flintstone, Patricia Adams Wright, iPad Rebel Art, Rebecca Allison, Diane Farrell, loads of names there. Stargaze Returnal, thank you. Just give us some questions. Let's have them in block capitals. That's the idea of tonight. But I'll just ramble on for 2 minutes. Saturday night, I went up to Cliff Tops with Peter, my mate who goes up with me all the time, and Ian and Bob. We want to get Bob going up there again as soon as we can, really. He's just been a bit waylaid of late. And although we didn't see anything, in between, I would say about 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, looking towards Hornsey from Bempton, so you're looking right down the coast, we see huge flashes of light. It looked a purpley colour, but we didn't read loads into it. We're thinking to ourselves, this is going to be a storm out at sea. You know, obviously it's just lighting it up. I managed to film one flash on Psionics. That's how interested I was, because that's all I thought it was. If it had been like fork lightning and stuff, I'd have left it on just to create somewhat of a bit of interest. But what is interesting is when I got home that night, I've got a message on my phone from a guy called Danny, and really good at this lad. He'd been fishing at Hornsey, and he wanted to tell me that whilst he's fishing on the beach, peripheral vision once again, straight out to sea, huge gold light that just became stationary over at sea. He's had enough about him to film it, whereas a lot of people just stand there looking. And so he's filmed this gold light. He's sent me footage. It's phone footage. It's not brilliant, but it's interesting because there's more lights outside of it when I threw it into this resolve that Les uses as well, and you can see more lights outside of it. But he also said there were great big flashes of light at the back of this thing. You know, and they're discussing it. Do you see them flashes? So it's fascinating that, like I said, from 27th of last month at Tunstall and then all the way up and down coast with Dan's report, we've got loads of activity, and it's just spiraled. It's not every night. And yes, there has been military activity out there. You know, there's been an exercise, not on Saturday, but on some of those nights. But it could be new military tech they're testing. I mean, what's anybody's views on that, Les? Rev?
Well, yeah, I think would it be a good exercise for us to get screen captures of the military exercises, you know, for each day, and then sort of like we can build up a picture of when people have seen these things and what military exercise flight paths they actually took on that night.
You'll probably not get flight paths, Les, because a lot of times they'll turn transponders off. There's no magical reason for that. It's just it's military and they want to be covert. So, and I've noticed that when typhoons are flying past Speeton, I won't say I've noticed, when you get on flight radar, they disappear. So they're obviously turning transponders off, and I don't think it's to do with UFOs or anything.
Yeah, I think some do, but some of them leave them on, Paul, because they do some really weird patterns, you know, just circles in the North Sea.
Well, you know, we're still waiting for questions. So just before I get to a description of what we're seeing by fishermen, which I've already done, but then I want to throw it out there. Do people think this is a military exercise? Have you any views on any of this, Rev?
Well, obviously I haven't seen the footage, but I would suggest that there's probably a lot of military activity going off the east coast of Yorkshire, especially with the sort of ramping up with Russia that they've been doing recently. So there's plenty of reasons to have military vessels and aircraft floating about over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, who knows what they're testing? The warm air that you got when you were stood on the cliffs a few weeks back. I mean, that to me suggests that there's some sort of ionization going on within the atmosphere, and they're charging the atmosphere that was coming in. So there's definitely something happening. As to what it is, I think Les has got a good idea trying to pinpoint as to what we can find out, but there'll be a lot of stuff they won't want to let us know.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's that warm air that we encountered on cliff tops. I mean, it weren't imaginary. We three of us up there, and we all felt it. The big wafts of warm air hitting us face on a cold night, edge at North Sea. So I mean, that's not supposed to happen, really, is it? But it is. It's fascinating, and I'll just remember tonight is about questions, but I'll just give a description of what Dan saw on 27th of September, because as it happens, I've not long since been talking, and I mean today, been talking to a pilot, and I've described this to him, and he doesn't know any tech like this. So he's fishing off Tunstall, and he's looking out to sea, and high in the heavens he sees a gold light that slowly descends, and it's above the wind turbines, the wind farm out at sea at Hornsey. 2 fingers at arm's length, he said it's just stopped above them. Huge gold light that splits into 3. These lights then become luminous green, and they fly about, as in his words, like butterflies. So we're not looking at flares. Flares they're just sent out, and they drop slowly, don't they? And they're lighting area up, and they're not usually luminous green, but these are going up and down and all over the place like butterflies. He then sees a red light overhead, about 200 foot up, that swoops down towards the sea, but doesn't touch the sea, and goes back up towards these, what was the gold light, which are now luminous green spheres. He said, and everything just seemed to be orchestrated, these were his words, and they came together and became one gold light, and then shot up the coast towards Hornsey and Bridlington. Now, I'm not trying to turn this into some kind of mystical, exotic alien encounter, but on the other hand, it doesn't sound like old military that I know about. If it is new tech that they're testing, then it's good. It's fascinating. And then from 27th of last month, we've had similar reports. Myself and Les went out to speak to a lady who'd seen something not identical, but it split up into 2, which became green. So, yeah, I find it fascinating. And views on that, people. Give us some questions. If there's anything in already, we'll go for it, Les.
Yeah, well, I think if anybody can support any of them sightings as well, that'd be great, wouldn't it, Paul? Because
it really would, because hopefully we might have people from our area, East and North Yorkshire, who might have seen something. I know Chris Wright, who's helped us incredibly with Wolflands. He's put a lot of time in. He's a good friend of Rev's and Les and myself. He were on beach walking his dog with his wife, and he rang me to say, we're just looking at gold lights out to sea. You know, he don't often come out with things like that. So, like I say, when this dies down, we might go for another year without anything. It's just the nature of things.
I've got a question here.
Go on, then.
The Sober Carper is asking, do you think the warm air could be venting from something inside the cliffs?
Yeah, what a great thought. Who can say? I know which stand we were on, and it was the biggest one, what they call grandstand, and that's where we were looking out to sea. And yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any working facilities below that old RAF base. That's the first thing I need to say. I think it's completely derelict, even if there are more levels than what's shown up on a Type 1 rotor, because people have said that they've been down on other floors in that facility. But could it be venting from something inside the cliffs? What a great thought. I don't know. And you've given me something to think about there, Sober Carper. What? I thought I'd said that wrong then. Any views?
There is a vent, isn't there? I don't know if anybody's come across it, but there is a vent that came out when it was used as a radar station.
Yeah.
From what I've seen on one of the plans, I think. So yeah, and I've heard tales that there's supposed to be another entrance in the cliff, but whether anybody's come across it or not, I don't know.
I've had that from a few fishermen who claim to have seen this, but I've not seen it myself. And but there's a few fishermen, anglers. I mean, I've got a friend who's a keen beach caster, beach angler, features in a lot of sea fishing magazines. He's really familiar with waters, and like I've said before to people, he'll go bottom of the cliffs and get cut off by the tide and fish it till it starts to go out, whereas I'd just be frightened to death because I wouldn't have the knowledge below those cliffs. But I don't know how far round he's been. And he's been round quite a ways, and he's not found it. There's been a lot of rock falls, so it's possible if it did exist, it could be behind, I don't know, 20, 30 ton, if not more, of chalk. It's possible. So yeah, all good. Hi, Jessica. Evening, everyone. Another Sunday, new week ahead. That's true. No doubt it'll feel like 5 minutes till we're doing it again, Jess. Well, that's the nature of things. Any more questions, Les?
Yeah, I'm just going to have to go through this longhand because I think Alison's having internet issues.
Yeah, well, we can sort of...
But I've got some. I did see some, so yeah. Let's just let me scroll through these now.
Well, there was a comment on one of the videos. Might have been the last live stream that we did, so last Monday, was it?
Right.
Which was apparently we're a bit anti-skeptic, apparently, was what somebody had said. So I don't feel like I'm anti-skeptic.
Well, anti-skeptic, or is it antiseptic? I mean, but no, you make a good point. I mean, I suppose if I don't feel like I am, and Rev doesn't, and I don't know, I can't speak for Les. I'd have said Les were a bit more skeptic than me, definitely. But if you've seen and experienced things, then you're not gonna hold your hands up and say none of this is sort of out of our realm, or you're not going to start and hold your hands up and say all of this can be explained. I've written a book called Night People, where I'm claiming that I've seen little grey beings with big black eyes stood at side of me in my bedroom as a 4-year-old. I'm not going to pretend that it didn't happen just to treat somebody or give somebody some information or make them think that I've got to be. Is there an explanation for that then? I haven't got one. I don't know if we're anti-skeptic. I don't know. I mean, I filmed.
Well, I was going to say, I suppose I am a bit anti-skeptic because as soon as somebody uses the word skeptic, they're automatically shutting off their open-mindedness, aren't they? So, to me, that's the way I see it.
Yeah. Well, to me, anti-skeptic is like a double negative, isn't it? So you must be not skeptical if you're anti-skeptic.
Yeah, anti-skeptic. I like that. I like the word. It's good.
Maybe we need to be more skeptical. Maybe that's the way forward.
Yeah, probably.
Well, the thing is, we can look at it another way. I mean, not everything is sort of UFO related in the true sense of the word that a lot of our listeners and we're talking about it. But if we wanted to lie, I could say I filmed a true UFO under sea a few months ago when I got that luminous white sphere that we're throwing an heat signature up on thermal camera. But we solved it. It were a whale. So, we're not that hell-bent on producing unexplained phenomena that if it's solvable, we're not going to go for it and try and solve it.
Right, I've got a question.
I guess it's too much for some and not enough for others. That's all we can say, innit? So, yeah.
Yeah, well, we're kind of looked at to give answers when we don't really have any more than questions ourselves. Is the real way around it, isn't it? I suppose.
Absolutely, and we're actually the skeptics' sort of dream scenario. We really are, because we can't prove anything we're talking about, and it's so easy to come out with scientific explanations for a lot of what's happening. But the same analogy is if you'd applied some of the things that people said couldn't happen and were impossible 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, then people would have egg on the face now. So, there's a lot of things that people have said it's just an impossibility that had come to fruition and are now happening. And I saw somebody just put a question in, is Wolflands available on Amazon Prime? Yes, it is.
Yeah, and it's right behind me there somewhere on the screen. Rent or buy from Amazon, yeah. So Lee Roscoe's got a question in, guys. Can you see that on the screen? Paul said in one shot that it has exploded in paranormal activity in Yorkshire for some reason. Can you tell us more?
Well, as you know, Rivington or Lee, I've just been explaining that there's lots of things being seen, and I don't know why. I really don't know why. There seems to be a ripple of paranormal activity in these places, and it just sort of grows out, just swells out from epicenter and then fizzles out again. I knew it was going to happen again, and that's not being a know-all. It's just the nature of it. It will die down. Back in 2004 to about 2009, it was really active on East Yorkshire Wolds, and I dare say North Yorkshire. But we were spending time, myself and Steve Ashbridge, up at Cottam on a regular basis, and Weaverthorpe, and we were seeing all sorts of unexplained phenomena. And I know a lot of farmers around that area were seeing it as well. And there's people in chat now, I'll not say who live in Weaverthorpe, and they've had some incredible sightings in that area. But once again, remote places, remote villages, and you wouldn't think they'd be conducting a military exercise over properties and things, although I suppose we can't rule it out.
Phil 84, is it known why the house the gamekeeper stayed in the film Wolflands was abandoned?
Probably an hard place to live, but I think Rev might be able to tell us a bit more.
Yeah, so the family that lived there, which were the Watsons, they moved to what was Stape Inn. They were moved out of there as the Forestry Commission took back, started to plant up after the Second World War. So by 1957, it was all replanted, and the house was abandoned and just left. And then the Forestry Commission used it for like outdoor pursuits and stuff like that for various schools and scouts and stuff. But the family at the time, there was, I think, was there 17 people I said that I found on the census were living in the house at one time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And imagine trying to go on, mate.
I was going to say, and the family, part of the family still lives up in the village, so they're still there.
Yeah. And imagine trying to forge an existence there. I mean, you had a well. There were a well for water, weren't there? And that was it.
Yeah. I mean, I had a tap, so there was tapped water in by that time. But originally, it was just a well, and that was all. Yeah, all the forest was like just scrub, rough grazing, and if you hurt yourself, there was a story of two farmers at Rottengill, which is just sort of a mile away, and one of them, when they were siving the hay or the grass or whatever they were doing, they accidentally slipped, cut his leg, and that was the end of him. He bled to death. So there was no second chances up there. No.
And this is sort of in a time. 1956 that it were abandoned. I'm not certain, you'll know better than me.
56, 57, I think it was when they started planting it, yeah.
So prior to that, obviously, we can go back with that property well over 100 years. There wouldn't have been motor cars. And so it's remote. So all these people that lived there, it must have been a hell of a hard existence trying to actually feed yourself, because it's bleak, isn't it? It's bleak. Even by today's standards, it's bleak.
Yeah, if you didn't get enough, if one of your calves died or something like that, that was used stuff for the winter, or if you weren't producing milk, you were struggling then. There's I think there was 4 or 5 cottages further over on the edge of the moor, and around 1920-ish, there was one family left because the rest of them had all died of pneumonia. Last family got snowed in, they all got pneumonia, and by the time people got to them and got them down into Pickering on the back of a horse and cart or whatever, that was the end of them. So it's slowly, as towns grew up and they became more easier to live, it slowly became more and more desolate up there.
Because we've walked around up there, and I've been with Chris Wright quite a bit around these places, and there's signs of life everywhere, isn't there? Literally everywhere you go, you can see remnants of old buildings, but not it's not like a village, people. Don't think that's what I'm saying. But there's definitely the footprint of life everywhere, and you can see that these people, I mean, they've chose to live in middle of nowhere. Obviously, everything would have been a bit remote in them days. It's not like today, but they've chose to live in these spots. It must have been a hellish existence. You know, no electricity, like a well for water if you're lucky, I suppose, and trying to catch your food. Yeah. Christ, you can't even imagine it. But,
right, I've got a question from Steph J. Just a quick question. What's the clarity of the sea like further from the land? Just wondered if you'll be able to use some sort of underwater camera to investigate further. Many thanks.
Steph, I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, I know one at Fisherman I've just been on about. He has an underwater drone. That's Andy Barnby. I'll not mind me saying his name. And he's used it and he can see the fish. So the clarity's pretty good, fairly well inshore. But I'd never seen an underwater drone in operation before. But it's on a line, so it doesn't just. But with currents and everything, you'd lose it fairly quickly, wouldn't you? So I think, Steph, if you wanted to deploy a camera further out to sea, you'd be looking at some military tech or some big company like Schmidt International or something that have these unmanned submarines that they can deploy and work from some unit somewhere else in the world even and work them remotely. So it's way out of my price range. Let's put it that way. But yeah, good question.
Okay, and let's have a look.
I can see one if you want me to read it, Les.
Well, I'm going to put this one up first.
Yeah, go on then.
Rebel Heart says, do you think there is a significance to these lights splitting up and being different colours?
Well, there must be. There must be, Rebel. What the significance is, I don't know. They weren't flashing. It was total silence. The red one that passed overhead were only a few hundred feet up, totally silent. So you got three colours. Initially, it was gold, split into three green ones. I like the way he said they were flying about like butterflies and almost orchestrated when they joined together with the red one and became gold again. And I've recently spoken to a fast jet pilot, and I mean very recently, within the last hour. And I've given him this description, and Les knows that this description is from the horse's mouth, so to speak. It's accurate. With this guy is contributing to next documentary, and that's about how he said it, Les, isn't it?
Yeah.
So obviously, it doesn't mean it's right. Do I believe him? Yeah, I believe he's seen it. Why am I basing it? Why do I believe he's seen it? Because there's at least 8 other people describing similar things who don't know him from the same area. So, yeah, I think the guy's telling me the truth. Is it military tech? Could be. You know what I mean? No, I'm not here to say that we're on Starship Enterprise and it's something that's flown in from another planet. I've really got no idea. All I know is it's highly unusual what's being seen and experienced at the moment.
I've got a question from Fred.
There's been a lot. Like I said on Monday, there's been a lot of people sighting the same sort of spheres countrywide at the minute.
Yeah.
And more than one at a time. So there's definitely whatever's going on. I don't know whether it's a diversion. I mean, to me, the more colours that you add, the more it makes you look at something pretty, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the way I'm feeling. I can't fathom out what purpose they have. If you know what I mean, whether they're taking information or whether they're transporting beings or whatever it is that's going on within that light form, I have no idea, but it certainly seems to make a good distraction.
Yeah. And another thing that we need to consider, if it is some other type of intelligence, let's just play with notion. That's why we're here on Truth Proof live stream. It might not even have any concept that we're even interested. Do you know what I mean? It might not even know, even be aware that we're interested. We know I've called them intelligent light forms. It might be as simple as when we try to get a camera on them and the sensor's electronics or something projecting in its direction, it becomes evasive. I don't know. But what we want from these things and what we think these things want are probably the last thing or the furthest thing away from what the truth is. Right. Will we be able to see a video of the recent beach sighting? That's interesting, Fred, because I don't know if you know then that I have a video of it because he sent it me last night via, he sent it me Saturday night. Yeah, which was last night. Come on, Paul, give it a shake. So he sent it last night because he'd filmed it on his phone. And you're not looking at anything groundbreaking. You're looking at phone footage, and this guy watched it travel out to sea and stop. Big gold light. And you get the flash of light behind it. And I've, like I said to you earlier, I've put it into Resolve, and I've got a few frame captures. And within the flash of light, I mean, it could be pareidolia, but and I'm always loath when people send me pictures of what suggests supposed cryptids behind trees, and I can't see. I could find tons of them if I wanted, but it's all pareidolia. But there does seem to be some kind of shape in this light. So I suppose we will be seeing the recent beach sighting, providing Dan, who sent it me, allows us, but we'll be using the bulk of it for what we're going to be working with. Thank you.
Yeah. Natalie Moore, have you seen the video of the green luminous spheres in Andorra, Norway? That could be the same phenomena. Atmospheric heaters used by the army.
Yeah, good point. It could be. I thought you were going to talk about Hessdalen when I saw Norway, but yeah, it really could be. But I can't answer it unless somebody comes forward and said, well, look, I know that there is some kind of vent, as Rev said, and we're getting some kind of ejection of heat below the cliffs, and that's what you felt that night, which is possible. I think it's a good thing to look into even more. Bob Brown, hi Bob, thank you, great show. Hope you're okay, mate.
Right then, so
and anybody who don't know Bob, he spent hours and hours and hours up on cliff tops with me, and I'm hoping we're going to get him out there again in next week or two. It's about time, so yeah, let's be doing it.
Well, he's been waiting for it to get cold enough, I think. That's what he said to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be interesting to see if this could be caught on thermal. Try this. Yeah, I suppose we could probably catch the warm heat on the thermal. I'm not sure. Yeah, we would do, wouldn't it? I mean, it's worth a go. I have a thermal camera. Could give that having said that, Scottish Paranormal, we have actually got to experience it again. Although you could scan up and down the cliffs with the camera, and if you've got an heat signature, you could maybe walk towards it. Obviously, don't jump over the cliff, but just walk towards it and see what you can find. See if it gets stronger. Yeah, good idea.
Now, here's a great question coming. It's from Annie French Boynton. Has Paul considered doing paid walks on cliffs with the stories, etc., to help pay for future research?
People have asked me, Annie, lots of times, and I mean loads of times. I even got offered good money to take about 4 people at Christmas who would come to stay in area. But I don't know if I'd feel right taking money off people for that. I love money, by the way. People will tell you when I worked on a building site, they'd say I was greediest joiner in UK.
Well,
I chased money everywhere. That's what I did.
Well, I've got to tell people a little story here. I dropped a £1 coin out my pocket on Thursday. Paul was straight down there. The £1 coin was nowhere near Paul had been stood previous. It was right under me. It fell out my pocket and
it became mine. Yeah, it did meld into my hand and become mine. But it'll cover all parking tickets and all parking things that I've supplied over years, Les. So that's good, isn't it?
Oh, I really feel enamoured by that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right.
So paid walks on cliffs. Yeah, I've been asked a lot about this. And I don't know. I don't know how much interest there would be in it, to be honest with you. But I've been asked a lot by individuals, but over years. So clearly there would be interest in it. But how much time without sounding rude, how much time do you want to devote to it? I saw a question earlier saying, Paul, how much time do you spend on cliffs? Because you seem to be up there all the time. I probably spend too much time up there. Guess what I'm going to be doing after I've finished this live stream? I'm going up there. I've got to meet 2 people up there tonight, military people as well. So we'll see where that one goes.
That's not a paid tour tonight, though, is it?
No, it's not paid. No.
Right. Okay. Right. I've got a question from Karen Beerman. Have any of you noticed a change with the phenomena during or after the lockdowns took place? That's a good question.
I'll throw that one at Rev while I think about it. Just put you on spot, mate, if you don't mind.
Yeah, not a problem. It's from what I've seen, it's become more active in pretty much where most people now are experiencing stuff on a daily basis. It seems to have become more negative in the aspect of it seems to be like we were talking about anxiety the other day, weren't we, Paul? And it seems to be that ramp up of media infiltration whereby your natural senses are absolutely fucked and shagged senseless because of it. Everybody's feeling a bit anxious, and I think that's kind of it's playing on that. It seems to be drawn to that negativity. So yeah, it's definitely more prevalent.
Yeah, without a doubt. That I think the actual nature of the phenomena is I haven't seen a change in that. What's being seen or what's being experienced, but it's ramped up, just like Rev says. It has definitely ramped up. There's more, and there's a lot more people. Like also, everybody's got. We aren't going into any great detail. Everybody's got some kind of problem, and there's worry for everybody. And I'm not labeling anybody, myself included. Everybody's got some kind of worry, and that's a type of anxiety, obviously worry. But we're all conscious that there's big change. Everything. Our lives have changed, and not for the better. I don't think for most people. And I don't know whether all of them factors come into play with the phenomena. I don't know, or whether it's the type of phenomena that feeds on the negative, and that's why we're seeing more of it. It's all speculation and just sort of words and shots in dark. I don't really know, but yeah, it's ramped up. But I don't think the nature of what's been seen has ramped up. Unlike the 60s, and when people were talking about weather balloons and using the academia and the military were using weather balloons as an excuse for all the UFO sightings and the same things that are being seen today. Nobody's using weather balloons as an explanation. That's just random kind of thrown out there, but it's true.
Well, Americans do.
Go on.
Theirs were Chinese spy balloons, weren't they?
Oh, we've got the spy balloons. Yeah, good point. Yeah. If they were spy balloons. Yeah. But,
the most advanced technological country on the world, China, needs a balloon to spy into your house. It can do it. It's doing it on your phone, isn't it? On your TV.
Do you know there were an exercise out off Bempton and Speeton? I'll have to find details of it if anybody wants to know, and and it were called UFO, and it were balloons that they were using and testing out there. Somebody highlighted it to me. Now, definitely within the last 18 months, I'll find information. But any more questions, Les?
Yeah, sure. Gaz Gray is asking, hi guys, a little off topic, but Paul, is there anywhere we can watch the recent talk from the event in Manchester? Cheers.
Okay, mate. Hi, Gaz. Good to hear from you as well. Are you talking about my talk?
I think he is, Paul.
If you are, I can have a natter to you afterwards. There might be a little bit of something, but about that one, yeah, we'll see. There'll certainly be a few clips of it anyway. Yeah, so I'll see what we can do. Give us a shout after it. Not tonight though, mate, because I'm heading out. But just during the week, give us a shout. We'll see if we can sort something.
Okay, and yeah,
I'll say that because I know Gaz, and he sort of it'll stay with him.
Okay. All right, here we go. I've got this one here. Rebel Heart is asking Paul, what happened to the man living in a tent in Dane's Dyke? Is he still there?
No, he's not. He was there. People will have heard me speak about this man. I'll not say his name, obviously, but we'd known him years. We'd known him for about 13 years, but that he'd been in Dane's Dyke, just living a solitary life in a tent up there. Didn't ask anything from anybody, but really nice guy. So people used to take him bits of food and that, and myself and Mary did. And he's gone. He went. Oh God, Bob Brown's in chat. He'll know when he went. It weren't this Christmas. He went about 18 months ago because, unfortunately, he left his tent one morning at about 11 o'clock because weather had been bad. He waited for it to clear. And when he came back at about 2 or 3 o'clock, his tent were burnt to the ground. Nothing else burnt around it, which was really sad because it just ended his existence living this solitary life in Dane's Dyke. And when I first met him, I asked him if he'd seen the big cats, you know, or a big cat that had been reported around the area. And he was pretty coy with me. And he said, no, he said, I've not seen it. He said, jokingly, with a straight face, he said, I've seen a rabbit, though, and things like that. He wouldn't really, it took a bit to get under his skin and get to know him. And then he admitted he'd seen the cat. And I like to stress this one to people who say that these cats don't exist. Here we have a man who lived 24/7 in this remote part of Dane's Dyke.
How many years did he live there? How many years did he live there for?
13 years.
13, yeah.
And he told me he saw it twice. So to the people who say they don't exist, because I've lived here all my life and I go to work 8 hours a day and I come home, have my tea and watch telly and then go to the pub and I've never seen one. Think about that, you know. I know it sounds a bit off, but that's the truth of it. This guy, 13 years, he'd seen it twice. He used to go across the bridge every morning to the cafe at Dane's Dyke, and they were repairing the bridge. I think the council were repairing it, and there'd be tape over, and he used to have to cut the tape and get back to his tent, which were a shame. And then one morning, he's gone over the bridge, and when he comes back, his tent's burnt out. So that's odd, isn't it? But there you go.
Right. Stargazer Eternal question: Hunmanby, did it all stop after the UFO landed?
Yeah, just about. That was the end of it, and absolutely fascinating. And I've said it before, and I said it. I've said it to the main witness, who I'm hoping to speak to. I spoke to his son today. It's a small world, you're saying all this, and I drove to Caton today, and en route I saw his son, and I stopped the car and said, I need to be talking to your dad in next week or two. And he goes, yeah, he knows about it. So I'm hoping, if he's listening to this, I'm hoping I'm going to get to talk to you a little bit more. And from what he told me and what the other lad told me, it stopped after the UFO had landed. After that night, everything fizzled out. But what's interesting, anybody who's not familiar with Hunmanby, we think it were 96, 97, 98 that these three men worked as an industrial unit at Hunmanby, 6 to 8 miles from where I'm sat. Over the period of June, July, and August, there was a slow build-up of poltergeist activity and strange things seen, radios playing when there's no power on in workshop, all sorts. I'm not going into detail because tonight's not for Hunmanby, but it culminated with a landed UFO in the compound at the back. And so Andrew tells me everything kind of stopped. It simmered down after that. But it's also strange that it was June, July, and August. 96, 97, 98. You know, I can never get my head around it. And everything we're presenting, everything, even to something like a Bigfoot. Because when that boss went to lock the gates up one night in early hours of morning and he turned round, it was there in front of him. He didn't see fur. He just saw this monstrous wide figure with no neck and a head looking at him. And he said it just turned and walked away. You know, it might have been a remote industrial place back in 1996, 97, 98, but it's still on outskirts of a village. You know, we're not in some deep woodland. It's fascinating. My favorite UFO story of all time, without a doubt. Or unexplained phenomena story. Come.
Melanie Hill, do you think phenomena are drawn to specific people or locations or both?
I think both, but what's your views on this, Rev?
Well, I'm kind of coming around to the idea that most people have had an experience of some type, whether they remember it or not. Because a lot of people, when you talk to them, they present the same sort of run up to stuff, and the accounts are very, do you know what I mean? So the only thing that they don't remember is having an account themselves. So I think some people, it's more to do with how your perception works, if you want to keep it simple. So if you're picking up on something and you see it and you're able to tune into that for a few minutes, the next time that you do it, it's like a muscle, isn't it? The more you work it, the more it becomes active, and the more you're able to see stuff. And I think that's probably the case. So I think everybody's as open to it as everybody else, but certain people have access that maybe they realise it, maybe they don't, but that's why they see stuff more than others.
And just to add to that, I definitely think kids are more perceptive to these type of things as well. You know, they can see, or I don't know, they seem to get kids of a young age.
More natural, innit? They're not being closed down the minds.
There's no barriers up, is it? They're open-minded and everything just seeps in. So, yeah.
I also think that, like Rev said, depending on the individual, if you were the person who were naturally frightened of these things, you know, I don't know, you turn around and you see a shadow and it turns out to be your friend walking towards you, but you still jump. I'm wondering if you're naturally fearful of these things, whether that it's the same phenomena, but if you were thinking, looking at this in awe, it's the same phenomena. And but some people might think it's terrifying and it's playing and it's actually working on their fears, and other people might think it's some kind of elative moment, some kind of fabulous thing that's happening, and it's playing on that and presenting. And it could be the same phenomena. It just might not have any concept of how we think about things.
I think how we react to it in terms of being scared or being elated, I think that's probably to do with the magnetic field that it emits.
Yeah.
You know, you can bring on any emotion if you hit the correct frequency. And it sort of seems to me like they're able to do that. So
you're right. And just before we go to another question, we're going to be talking on Thursday to a bloke or a man who's going to be going into that in a lot more detail. And I know, are you joining us for that one, Rev?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I hope you are.
I think we've had it because he's been wanting to talk to me for a while, hasn't he? So
yeah. So we'll be talking to Rick Allen on Thursday. We'll get that put out, and this guy's going to he'll be talking about the cryptids, and we'll just spend a minute with Rick, and it'll be a lot about frequencies and how he thinks that's affecting people, and how these perceived creatures or whatever they are influencing the subjects that they interact with using frequencies. And I think it'd be an interesting talk. It'll be a bit off the wall for some people, but we've got to throw all these ideas out there and just see where they land. They're not like, it's like that the talk I did at Awakening. I said right at the beginning, it'll be too much for some and it won't be enough for others. And that's what this guy will be like, I think. But I think he needs his shout anyway. Go on, let's. I
think to pick up on the second part of that question about locations, I know the Revs talked about this before about walls. I don't know, the seeping out energy or energy going into walls and
the stone tape
and
theory,
things like that. Yeah, so you know, I mean that. I suppose it's like when something's touted as a haunted house. You know, something either drastic, terrifying, or horrible has happened there, and people think it's all embedded in the structure of the building.
Yeah, you're right, Les.
And energy seems to get trapped, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay, let's have a look then. Here's a good question. Mark Anderson, question, gents. What professions tend to be more forthcoming?
I think I know what you mean by that. You mean as in giving you with data protection nowadays, everything's difficult, and you can't blame them because they're bound by the rules that are made higher up. But I've always found that what the lifeboat are really good, or they were with me when I went down looking for information, and I could look through logs. I weren't taking anything away with me. There's no state secrets that I'm looking at, but I could look through logs and find patterns for what I've called the light forms. So I always found out the RNLI to be really good, and I've tried getting information from police, Coast Guard, freedom information requests about military incidents, and you're only going to get what at the end of the day what they want to give you. They're not going to give you they're not giving you that smoking gun. But what professions, Mark? Yeah, I found lifeboat to be great. I don't know whether you've actually put any freedom information requests in, have you, Rev? So have you froze?
I haven't, no, only for myself, which
yeah. Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only for myself, which we talked about.
Yeah.
But that's it. Yeah. I think where the question's sort of aiming is with response to witnesses. So when you've had a professional witness, I know we've talked about various scientists and doctors that you've spoken to.
Yeah, that's spot on. I've spoken to doctors. I've got a scientist. I'd missed a part of that question there, Rev. Thanks. A scientist who's been offering me help. Go on, Les. You're going to say something?
Yeah, carry on. Finish up.
And military personnel, police officers. Unbelievably, there's been quite a lot of police officers being on them cliff tops with me. And there's a fascination there. Why shouldn't they be interested in unexplained? You know, we at Truth Proof here, we've got to hold our hands up and look for the answers. And if it leads to an earthly explanation, then let's do it. I'm all for it. But so far, there's a lot of these things we haven't found that way. I'm just looking. I see Joel Burgess is in. Hi, Joel. I don't know whether Lynn is in.
I'm just keeping an eye on the clock here, and I know there is a few questions. So
yeah, go on then, Les.
Really love to get some of these out. Dark Angel is asking, does Paul think that he has been the chosen one for the encounter he's experienced?
Does it say chosen one?
No, chosen. Well, I added that one in. Yeah.
All right.
Are you the chosen one?
No, I don't think so, mate. I think that, you know, the things that happened to me in childhood, I think there's a lot more people out there that it's happened to. And I were fortunate, I suppose, or unfortunate that I've remembered a bit of it. And I've still got no sequence of events. But to answer that, Dark Angel, no, I don't think I was. But it's certainly put me on the path I'm on now. So, you know, there may have been a reason for it. Okay.
Michael Park is asking, evening, lads, any updates on a frequency experiment at Bempton last week?
Hi, Mike. Well, as it turns out, we went somewhere else, and we'll not go into detail, Mick, because no doubt me and you'll speak in week, but we went somewhere else, a prominent landmark, should we say, and guess what?
Yeah, very enlightening.
It were kicking out the magical frequency. Let's just put it that way, and we've got it on film. So that's interesting. So I'll give you an update on that. Sorry about being a bit cryptic with that, people. So we're saving some things for a documentary. Go on then, let's have something for Rev.
I'm just got to scroll through all of these because Alison is offline. She's about to throw a laptop out the window.
Yeah.
And
when you do that.
So just bear with me so I can actually see some of these questions. Right then, here we go. The sober carper again. I think we've missed some of the. Do you know of any accounts of loud pops or clapping noises from the lights when they appear or disappear, as with the cryptid cases?
I don't know about you.
No.
I've not experienced any myself. I think certainly in the US, there's quite often a tone of a sound that happens before a Bigfoot encounter. The only time that I've heard like a boom was when the first time that I went back up to the house, which was the week before I went up with Paul and Les. But that's the only. But that was a loud echoing boom.
Yeah, I tell a lie. Warncliffe Woods, and the lads that were trapped in the woods, they said that just before this thing appeared, that stayed with them all night, and there could have been more than one. There was huge crashes, like trees splitting in half, cracks, like trees splitting in half. So yeah, there is. I'm trying to keep it brief because, like Les, I'm aware at time we've got 12 minutes left.
Okay, Joel Burgess, probably the council bent his tent down.
I couldn't possibly say, Joel. I couldn't possibly say. You know, but who can say?
Okay, I'll flash up this one from Daz. Hello, all. Question is,
I'll say, yeah.
Has anyone considered using a dog whistle when searching for the Dyke and searching the Dyke for dogmen?
No. No, I don't know. I don't know whether it's a serious question or a bit tongue in cheek, but and it says great content, so thank you. But now I don't know. Are you talking about the pitch of it that it might? I don't know. No, I wouldn't have thought so.
Well, Native Americans won't whistle in woods in the night for that reason,
right?
Because it's supposed to attract.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's what they say.
Right. Well, I'm not going to whistle.
Okay, so I've got Mark Anderson, gents. Are there any ley lines, earth energy in the area?
Allegedly, there is. Yeah. I mean, and we've got the Rudston monolith of just a few miles away, which is tallest standing stone in Great Britain, and that's supposedly ley lines running from the monolith. And what's interesting, if you run a ruler through an ordnance survey map, from the monolith you go through Willie Howe, just about onto Staxton Wold, which used to be an old Roman hill fort. And I'm not saying that's an energy line, but it's interesting how these things line up. If you line RAF Bempton up and then line the base of Speeton up and then go to Staxton, there's a line that goes through them all. Whether it's a ley line, I don't know. But it's fascinating because it goes then, that line continues then into the forests where these lads have had their experiences. It cuts through one of them, just very close to where the three lads at Broxer had theirs. So, yeah, go on then, Les.
Okay, I don't think we've got a question, but you can see that one is answering Mark. Yeah, the ley lines go right along Whitby Beach, about a quarter of a mile wide.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
That's okay. Not so much a question, this, but I think if I put this on screen, Paul, got something for you. Someone came to us today and told us that our big black dog killed their Yorkshire Terrier. We're not a big black dog. We got a white dog, so I don't know. Don't know what he's alluding to there, Shane.
I don't. But if you want to contact us and tell us later, yeah, well, thank you.
Okay, yeah. I think we are.
Well, I can see one here. Any reports of electrical buzzing sounds not near pylons? From Dave Sadler. Yeah, we've heard
that one. Yeah,
we've heard electrical buzzing sounds and high pitch sounds on the cliff top. I've heard them. Steve Ashbridge, Kelly Hollis has heard them. Lots of people and emails to me saying they were up there and they've heard strange buzzing sounds. Did you ever hear out like that in woods and forests where you were working, Rev?
Not that I can think of. Yeah, no, I can't. Now that it comes to mind.
Okay, mate. No worries. All good.
Okay, so I don't think I've got any more questions in, but I'm just going to bring up Alison. Welcome to the show, Alison. You're moderating tonight for us, and thanks for that. She's starting a new job tomorrow. She's a little bit excited. So,
well, good luck in your new job, Alison. I'm sure that you'll
good
smash
luck
it.
from the team. Yeah,
and everybody else thinks the same. Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
So,
best of luck to you.
Yeah. On that note, I don't think I've seen any main questions come in, and we've got to go out. So, folks, we've got to wind this show up.
We have. We'll try to be another 5 or 6 minutes next week. But like I said, I'm heading out. I know Rev's got an important rugby match to watch, and Les has got to go. We'll be honest,
well. Yeah.
So I was thinking of something else then, but it's all good.
But some great questions in tonight, guys, weren't they? And we're forever looking into the phenomena day in, day out. And Paul, no more than Paul at the moment. Going out.
Well, we've got to do it. I see Tom Waters in there as well. Tom's a great help to us all. Octopus Ride. Thanks everybody. Mark Anderson. Thanks for support. Sorry it's a bit short tonight, guys, but like I said, I do have to dash, and I know that Rev has and Les. So we shall be back Thursday with Rick Allen, and hopefully Sunday you'll get your full hour. Thank you.
Okay. And we'll see you, Rev, next week.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, mate.
All right. Bye.